It is time now for Back Pages tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. And joining us are football writer and broadcaster Henry Winter and Martin Hardy from The Times. Welcome on to you both. We'll see you shortly, but let's run you through the Back Pages as we have them so far. Here we have the Daily Telegraph. United stand by Amorim as data backs manager's claims, and he's claiming that they have improved in key areas despite the fact it's their worst start to a Premier League season since the start of the Premier League, in fact. Back page of the Express, United stars lose faith. Stubborn Amorim's reign is under real threat as player frustration mounts. And also, we're going to see plenty of this picture at the top here. Duplantis, who's broken his own pole vault world record for 14th time. Absolutely staggering. Although it wasn't for him because he was very, very fluent in this movement. Let's go to the back page of the Star. Dread Devils. And it's Manchester disunited. Player unrest at Amorim tactics as Benfica could offer boss a way out. Yes, could there be another option for him? Back page of the Sun. United not in good shape. System of a frown is the headline. Players frustrated by Amorim's tactics, as we know that he is sort of wedded to this three at the back and the two number 10s. Back page of the Guardian. There you go. What amazing pictures. Duplantis claw key to 14th record. Special shoe apparently helps pole vault world best of 6 metres 30 centimetres. Yes, plenty more on the Champions League restarting this season. Back page of the Eye. Burnley sue Everton for £60 million over relegation row. And then on the left-hand side, you can see that Amorim retains United backing despite worst start in 33 years. Back page of the Metro looks like this. We're going places. So Tottenham versus Villarreal there at the top, and you can see there at the bottom, our losses immeasurable, say Hatton family. That, of course, after Ricky Hatton passed away at the age of just 46. And that's a story, as you can imagine, dominant in Manchester. The Manchester Evening News go with this. R.I.P. Ricky the Hitman Hatton, the people's champ. OK, so this is Back Pages tonight. Welcome along to you at home. Welcome along once again to both Martin and Henry. We're going to start off with Ruben Amorim because we've been obviously discussing this story aplenty here on Sky Sports News, and as far as our information is that there's going to be no knee-jerk reaction, no sort of regular constant reassessment of Ruben Amorim's future, and that the club has a long-term plan and they're prepared to back him, despite the fact, and we know all of the stats, 31 points in 31 Premier League games since he took over. And if you make that into a table of the 17 sort of ever-present clubs in that time, United would be bottom, and with a goal difference of minus 13. I mean, look, it's all pretty damning, but you can see here in the Telegraph, United stand by Amorim as data backs managers' claims. And Henry, the data suggests that they have improved in key areas. OK, so that's the data. Is it the eye test, though? I mean, you look at that, does it look like it's improving much?
Well, I think you've got a picture of someone going over a pole vault. But I think Amorim, I'm surprised everyone hasn't gone for the, he could be for the high jump, because you just looking and listening to Manchester United fans going on their forums today, you can throw as much data as you like across the back pages, but it won't wash with many Manchester United fans. They can see what's going on. They can see, if you want figures, you've got a very good number 10 in Bruno Fernandes, who obviously cares about the team, but you have to play him in his best position. He's not an 8, he's certainly not a 6. And I think they're right to back him, but as in the club backing Amorim, and the fans, actually, they support him vocally, but I'm sure they are upset, and some of them voting with their feet, when they see performances like that. But players also have got to take responsibility. I mean, Fernandes, of course, he shouldn't be playing in a sort of deep midfield position, but he allowed Foden to run off him for the first goal. Luke Shaw should have got tighter to Doku. Luke Shaw is in the left centre half anyway, in a back three. So, look, Amorim's got to take responsibility for a system that clearly doesn't suit Manchester United, that's against their tradition of wingers. OK, they've bombed out all the wingers now. But I think, actually, if you reconfigurated the players in a 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, and you put two holding players, whether that's Casemiro and Ugarte behind Fernandes as a 10, and then you had Cunha when he's fit and Mbeumo out wide, and actually get in some service to Sesko, you might actually have a little bit more solidity and the data will be looking better. But look, he's hiding behind numbers here.
OK, we'll come on to the tactics bit in a moment, but I suppose it's related in terms of, in the Daily Express, United stars lose faith, and in the third paragraph of Jeremy Cross's piece, it's understood senior players have been left frustrated and confused by his refusal to change tactics. And again, in the piece, the headline just above there, stubborn Amorim's reign is under real threat as player frustration mounts. OK, we'll focus back on the tactics in a moment, and you've given us a little insight there, Henry. But Martin, for you, how significant is this? The board seem to be backing him right now, the long-term plan, etc. But the players, maybe a little bit more disquiet there.
Yeah, there kind of seems to be a little bit of mixed messages regarding the players. Some are standing by him, but some don't like the tactics. There's a bit of a contradiction in terms. You did touch upon the stats there, and I think it's in the Telegraph and in my paper, The Times, that Man United ranked first in the Premier League for total shots and touches in the opposition box. So it's obviously information that Manchester United are keen to get out there. You think back to a Roy Keane time, if they were in a slump, you would not have somebody inside the club briefing that, look at how many shots we've had, or look at how many times we've got in the opposition box. It's a team that's lacked a proper heart for quite a long time. The tactics, which Henry's touched upon, are a huge part of this. You're playing Bruno Fernandes, this great number 10, who's tried for 6 or 7 years to drag this failing football club to new heights, being played completely out of position. The final 20 minutes, 30 minutes of the Manchester City game, he's so deep that he can't hurt Man City. And you can see Pep Guardiola sitting there thinking, this is great. The one player in that team that has the drive to do something is being played out of position. So the tactics do blend with the whole situation with the players. When he was interviewed on Sky afterwards, Bruno Fernandes talked pointedly about the tactics, and he talked about the system, and he talked about the fact that in the middle of midfield, he was getting overrun over and over again. That message has to, at some point, drop onto Ruben Amorim. At the minute, you read from the piece that Paul Hurst has done in my paper, The Times, Ruben Amorim is so stubborn, there's no chance he's going to change the system. Well, at the minute, as you said, it's the Manchester United's worst start to a season in 33 years. It's the 14th in the table. It's 4 points from 4 games, 2 own goals, 1 penalty, 1 goal in open play, relying on some bits of paper and data being handed out to journalists to say it's not as bad as you think it may be. But it's the fans that have been watching this decline for beyond Amorim's time at the club. It's getting quicker and quicker. And if you're a Manchester United fan, you'd be very worried. The players have to be either taking more responsibility defensively, which they didn't yesterday. There was 7 Man United players in the penalty area when the first goal from Phil Foden went in. Nobody cared to challenge Foden. Haaland flicked aside a defender that was trying to grab him, and for the third goal, the Manchester United defence had gone AWOL against one of the most dangerous centre forwards in the country, and eventually you had Harry Maguire, a player not renowned for his pace, who can't get a game for Man United, trying to chase down Erling Haaland, and the inevitable happened. So it's a combination of factors at the minute. The players need to take responsibility, but the players are being played out of position. It's just symptomatic of how much is wrong there at the minute.
Let's go to the inside page of the Daily Telegraph. Wayne Rooney speaking on his own show, the Wayne Rooney Show. After the last year when Erik ten Hag has got sacked and Ruben came in, we're hearing how they're going to play and it's going to change. I think if the manager is honest with himself, it's got worse. I want to be as supportive and positive as I can be on the manager and the players, but it's very difficult to sit here and say we are seeing progression. We're seeing none of that, and it is very difficult. Henry, we've heard Manchester United former players come out and say things like this before, but it seems to be growing as a bit of a chorus with the likes of Roy Keane and Gary Neville also weighing in. How much of an influence might that have? Or is it something that Ruben Amorim at this point is just thinking, well, they've said it before, they'll probably say it again, it doesn't really bother me?
I think it probably has some influence on supporters because these are individuals. I mean, you think of the titles that they won, Keane, Neville, Rooney, they embody what Manchester United should be about, that defiance, that leadership. I mean, Gary Neville was he was an absolute winner at right back. Keane, I mean, they're crying out for a Roy Keane in midfield. Even sort of Roy Keane in his later years would get in this Manchester United midfield. He'd probably get in it now. I mean, he's absolutely exactly what they need. And I understood when Amorim was talking in the summer about, look, we need to go out and strengthen the attack, goals is the issue. But you talk to Manchester United fans, you know, they were saying, OK, we need strengthening up front. We also need a mobile central midfielder because Casemiro is just getting too old, and they need a goalkeeper. So, you know, all those issues have not been, I mean, partly addressed. But yeah, coming back to your point about the former players, I mean, they're right. I mean, listening to Keane yesterday, post-match, he was fairly restrained. I kind of got the impression there was an element of restraint because they wanted to obviously show respect on a very sad day for the city of Manchester, with Ricky Hatton passing away. But the point that Keane made, Amorim has to listen to because he is completely right. And also, I just hope the players will look and listen and see where those words of advice are coming from and just think, actually, how well they represented the club in difficult times. They were defiant. They took individual responsibility. I know it's a general malaise at Manchester United in the post-Ferguson era that there's a lack of responsibility taken, where that's the culture that's set by the Glazers, whatever it is. These players have got to take more responsibility. But the problem for me is primarily Amorim, just not changing his system, being so stubborn. The best managers adapt.
OK, well, he could be ultimately pushed by Manchester United, or he could be pulled away by another club, potentially Benfica. Let's just have a look at the Times sports section. The Portuguese step-up bid for Amorim, a piece that has been co-written at least by friend of the show, Charlotte Dunker. Let me just read you the first couple of paragraphs here, Martin. Obviously, it's your paper. The leading candidate to become Benfica's next president stepped up his pursuit to bring Ruben Amorim back to the club after watching the Manchester derby at the Etihad Stadium on Sunday. João Noronha Lopes, who according to recent polls the favourite to win the election on October 25th, watched Amorim's Manchester United team flop in a 3-0 defeat by Manchester City. Could be a nice convenient way out for Ruben Amorim.
Yeah, it's an interesting story. Obviously, he has to win the vote first of all, which is in a month's time. And he was at the match on Sunday, flanked by, I think, Pedro Ferreira and Nuno Gomes, the former Benfica and Blackburn Rovers player. And there are quotes that Gomes gave to the media in Portugal, which said Ruben Amorim is the coach of Man United. So he really didn't want to answer the question. However, he then did say, one thing I know, Ruben will be the coach of Benfica one day. So it's an interesting subplot to this situation because you feel Man United got themselves burned so badly with Ten Hag last summer and giving him this great new contract, and within a series of months had to give out a compensation payment. What was it, getting on for 20 million pounds, with all the cost cutting inside of Old Trafford for staff on at the ground level. It was such a bad look to have wasted so much money. To then repeat that within less than 12 months of the appointment of Amorim, another big payout, I suspect financially they can't necessarily do it. And I think for how bad a look it would be, they would try and steer away from it. This would be an interesting situation if somebody would offer them an outlet with Amorim, and we'll see how that presents itself. In light of that, before it came on, you're looking at who are the bookies' favourites at the minute to become the next Manchester United manager. And you're looking at Gareth Southgate. One of Henry's friends, Michael Carrick, is in there. It's not perhaps as clear cut as it would have been maybe 5 or 10 years ago, when you would just chuck Mourinho or Guardiola at it. At the minute, it's a huge situation, and there's not necessarily the name that kind of trips off the tongue quite as simply. So we'll watch this one. Obviously, there's Raiola's doing a great job at Bournemouth. Is he somebody that would come and look at these players and has the tactical sense to alter what's failing at the minute? That's for down the road. At the minute, Manchester United are saying they're keeping faith with their manager, but this is an interesting development which we'll have to keep an eye on in about 4 weeks' time.
All right. Thank you very much indeed for the moment, gents. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll look at more of the sports stories in the morning newspapers, including this in the Telegraph. If you don't know who Mondo Duplantis is, well, this is him floating on air. Swedish pole vaulter has broken his own world record for a 14th time. cracking picture. We'll be discussing the story next. You are watching Back Pages tonight. Welcome back to you at home. Welcome back to Henry Winter from Sports Illustrated and also Martin Hardy from The Times. Gents, we're going to go to the Manchester Evening News. Not usual practice for us to feature a regional paper, but there is a very good reason to. And that is, of course, the passing of Ricky Hatton at the age of just 46. And they've gone with a very fitting headline here, the People's Champ. Martin, let me come to you first. I think, one of the things about him, and I think, that very headline seems to sum it up really, is his everyman quality, as well as being, a brilliant boxer. Those incredible fights, whether they were in Manchester or whether they were over stateside. Just your reflections, first of all, Martin.
Yeah, absolutely devastating news yesterday when somebody just sent me a text saying, "Have you heard this?" And it's genuine disbelief when you hear of this. I probably should go on this later, but there are so many men in their 20s and 30s and 40s now who are leaving us too early. There is a charity, I think it's a North East charity called If You Care Share, which tries to help mental health. So many people seem to be suffering in silence on their own, and we end up with this terrible situation of the loss of somebody like Ricky Hatton, or seen friends been at funerals the last 3 or 4 months, people that are dying far, far earlier than you think they should. And this great sadness comes through it. We hope that by talking these things through, we can start to cut down what has become an incredible amount of early deaths amongst young men. Regarding Ricky, this is somebody that was do we say throwback? There's loads of great pieces being done today. Ollie Hall's done a really good one about the time he spent with him. Adam Catterall did a good talk on Talk Radio early on today about somebody that he watched as a 17-year-old becoming a friend that he would go for a pint with. I have social media posts of people not in our profession who have stories of bumping into Ricky Hatton, the warmth, the generosity, the humour, that down-to-earth quality that we all talk about, that was 100% genuine. His fights in terms of getting 30,000 people to fly over to America, to Vegas, to be by his side, even if it was just in a bar on the Strip, when he fought Manny Pacquiao and fought Floyd Mayweather, two of the best world fighters probably of the last 30 years. And that was the only time he ever came short. Before that, he took on everybody in his path with his explosive style, built himself up from small hall fights to being, the king of the MEN arena, these 20,000 nights. All the time, very, very down to earth, prepared to joke at himself. And then subsequent to his boxing career, spoke about his troubles, but I think there was still enough affection and love for him that you thought he was coming through these periods. It's a sportsman, and it's a title, the People's Champion, that perhaps gets thrown around too much, but this is somebody that everybody invested in because of how genuine he was. And I remember watching one of his fights at a friend's house, one of those, I can't remember if it probably was the Mayweather fight, and about 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, leaving my friend's house, and all over those streets in Tyneside with groups of lads heading home, having watched United for that night, to watch him fight many, many miles away and give it his all, because he'd united so many people. So many people were invested in him and interested in him. And yesterday was a terrible, terrible day. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Martin. Okay. Do you know what? Let's move on to another story. Let's move on to, in the Metro, Tottenham versus Villarreal. Obviously, Tottenham back in the Champions League after winning the Europa League against Manchester United late last season. So it is Villarreal who the visitors to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And do you think that they are going places? Henry, what's the read you're getting? Now that you've got sort of a few key things in place there.
Key things in place off the field, with executives coming in who are prepared to engage with supporters. Immediately that changes the culture and the atmosphere around the stadium. But also with Thomas Frank, you see him with his players here, and you heard him in the press conference earlier. His excitement of listening to the 2 minutes of the Champions League anthem. So I think they've got an outstanding coach. We've been talking about managers have only got Plan A. Well, he's got Plan B and Plan C, as a lot of the very best managers do. In a second half of a game. So absolutely, they are going places.
Let's go to your piece, Henry, in Sports Illustrated, and it's about Phil Foden and how he's looking very rejuvenated right now. Just unpick that for us, if you would.
Well, just very quickly, I mean, Phil Foden was Footballer of the Year, well, it was a year ago, and the Players' Player of the Year as well. And he was outstanding. And then obviously he went to the European Championships. The England fans had this fantastic chant for him, which they sang through all the games that he started. But he didn't really have the spark, and he wasn't able to sort of ignite a game with this fantastic ability. And I just took a long look at the amount of games that he's played, FIFPro, the Global Players Union, and the PFA, the Players Union in this country. You know, they've been warning generally, not simply about Foden, about the player physical workload and you know, the sort of mental fatigue. And I think he played 72 games last season, in the season running up to the Euros. So, you know, we have to be a little bit careful, but particularly of the younger players. But what was particularly noticeable in the game yesterday was that he took responsibility. He was organising. He was the first one with the press. When Haaland got knocked over, he went over and sort of helped him to his feet. He finished the game as a false nine. So maybe we're seeing the sort of second phase of this wonderful talent, and we should celebrate his talent and also salute Manchester City's academy. But maybe we're just seeing a leader now, and that is going to be very interesting for Thomas Tuchel and for England, because England aren't short of number 10s, but to have Foden in there in the squad is a fabulous option. And it's just great to see a very good player playing well again.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I mean, forget he's only 25. And he's already a father of 3. Amazing. He's accomplished a lot in his 2.5 decades on this planet so far. OK, let's go to the amazing shots on back pages, including back page of The Guardian. Mondo Duplantis, Swedish pole vaulter. You can see him there, having broken his pole vault world record for a 14th time. Briefly, guys, because we've only got a minute and a half or so. So, Martin, to you first. Just how extraordinary a feat is this?
He broke the world record in 2020, and I think he's bettered it another 13 times. Matt Lawton, my colleague who loves athletics, informs me through reading it today that he uses something now called the claw, which is a sole in the sole of the shoe that was used by hurdlers to make themselves faster. He can only use it when he's going for his record for fear of clipping himself as he flies through the air. But as soon as he put the claw shoe on tonight, the likelihood of him reaching, I think it was 6.3 metres increased. And yeah, the pictures are absolutely brilliant. So yeah, an incredible achievement.
The pictures are. And also, it's proving quite lucrative for him, Henry. Every time, a new world best in this event. And he's the only one doing it. And he just keeps doing it by a centimetre every time.
As Sergei Bubka did before him. I mean, it's very clever. It's sort of 1 centimetre, 100,000. And in Martin's currency, he's jumping 3 Voltamardas. I mean, it's remarkable what he's doing. But very quickly, what was great was the fact that all the other competitors were willing him on. And I think the Greek guy who came second was actually holding a fan to him to cool him down so he could break the world record.
It's amazing, isn't it? What a great story to end on. Gents, it's been an absolute pleasure to have your company this evening and hearing your insights. We will speak again very soon, I am sure. Henry and Martin, thank you very much indeed. Now, if you missed any of the show, another chance to see Back Pages tonight, 1:30, and the show also available as a podcast. Just download Back Pages on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your pods. Join us again Tuesday night. Our guest will be David Ornstein from The Athletic and broadcaster Shaban Earn.